Because whenever I have something I want to tell you, then you can't interrupt me, otherwise you're being a hypocrite. How are you going to handle your finances? What do you think about raising children? Like, we're just very simple people. Hello, this is Daniel.
Hello.
He's my fiance. Would you like to introduce yourself, Daniel?
Hello, I'm Daniel. I'm Rosie's fiance, and I'm also a student at Cambridge studying chemistry.
Yeah, and we thought today we'd just do a kind of sit-down chat with you about how we're finding preparing for marriage, and the sort of misconceptions that people might have, as well as our thoughts. Also, I'm 22 and Daniel's 21, so we're also going to talk a bit about what it's like to be getting married younger than usual, because it's not very common to get married at this age in the UK.
Why don't you start us there?
Yeah.
Why get married?
Yeah, well, I guess I just really like you.
It's a bit awkward.
No, basically, because we're both Christians, we recognise that marriage is a really good thing, and we're kind of just like, why wait? And we think that to best honour God in our relationship is to be married, and it's a really good thing that God has given people to do. We think it's a blessing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, and a big part of that as well is that we live before marriage in a different way, I think, to how maybe non-Christians would, in that marriage isn't just a ceremony, but it's a real change in our relationship where we leave the families that we've been a part of to start new life together, to become one. And so before that, we don't live together or anything like that. And so it really is the beginning of life together.
Yeah, one thing that I really like about it is that as a Christian getting married, it's a real new start, and it feels like a huge change, whereas if you've lived together previously as if you're married, and getting married just feels like a huge celebration and ceremony without a significant change in your life. So that's something that I'm looking forward to be able to live together.
Yeah. And how are we preparing?
That's a good question. So there are 3 sort of marriage preparation sessions that our church in Cambridge runs for people. So we think that often people just think preparing for marriage is doing the wedding planning and getting the dress, like getting the cake, everything like that. But we think the preparation is more spiritual as well as just physical, and seeing and planning the celebrations. So there's a lot of things that you bring into a marriage, like your past experiences and how you've been brought up in your family, as well as your personal beliefs and habits. So the marriage counselling course at church is just a way to talk about that with an older Christian couple, and so that they can help us.
Yeah, and it's not just been about fixing problems that might already exist. Like, it's about trying to prepare to make the best start possible and to build a really strong marriage from the start. So, yeah, as Rosia mentioned, we've been paired up with an older couple at our church, actually one of the ministers and his wife. And so we've been going around there for these sessions, having dinner together, chatting, and then looking at a part of the Bible or talking about some questions. What have you found then? Like, what have you learned so far in marriage prep?
So we've been talking through a number of topics, and we also have homework to do before each session. So the first session was kind of a get to know the pastor and his wife, and talk a bit about how we met, and yeah, basically that. The second one we had more homework for, so we had a list of questions that we had to discuss and each answer and then talk about together. And some of them included questions about how you're going to handle your finances, what do you think about raising children, and what are your expectations.
Lots of the questions have been really interesting because it's allowed me to understand the different backgrounds that we've had, and what kind of assumptions we're carrying in about starting a family life and living together, and things that we'd like to carry forward that we've found have been good in our family homes.
What sort of things do you want to carry forward from your family home?
Ooh, I've really loved in the last couple of years when I've been home from university, just in the evenings, very reliably being able to go downstairs and just find a couple of people, whether it's parents or sister as well or whatever, like on the sofa downstairs doing something or having a glass of wine, just like chatting, like being able to go downstairs at a certain point in the evening where you don't feel like doing anything else rather than watching YouTube or something, to be able to go down there and just chat.
Yeah.
What about you?
I really like how when I was younger, my parents used to, before I went to bed, just come into my bedroom and pray with me and just talk about what I need prayer for. And that was a really good way of them showing care for me, I think. And also showing me that I need to depend on God when I'm feeling sad or when I'm happy, and not on myself.
Yeah. And so, like, those bits are really exciting, right? Because we don't know what it's going to be like, but we can start to plan life together and think about how we're going to do that and habits to form from the start.
Yeah. One habit that I really want to form together is trying to set good routines, because I realised in my own life over the last few years, like being at uni, whenever I have good routines, sort of going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, I just feel so much better and
Absolutely.
able to receive as well as give to others.
Yes.
So that's a goal that I want to have, is to sleep early and wake up early together. What about you?
Oh, I massively share the same aim. Yeah, that would be thriving. Yeah, I think even maybe just making really intentional use of the weekends. We both want to like host people as well, like when possible. So spending time deliberately thinking about how things are going and like who we could possibly host or those kinds of things, and doing that as well. Yeah.
And another thing that we've been learning is conflict resolution and how to go about that, because conflict is inevitable in every marriage unless you're super lucky. And one thing that I've been learning from Daniel about that is he's very pro not interrupting when we're having an argument. And he'll remind me, he'll be like, don't interrupt me, and then I'll stop interrupting him. But then it's good for me too, because whenever I have something I want to tell you, then you can't interrupt me, otherwise you're being a hypocrite.
That's true.
So it means that we can both talk uninterrupted, and it means you're less likely to raise your voice because you don't have to talk over each other. Is that something you learned at home, or when did you learn?
I think like the most important thing kind of behind that is perspective, because seeing, being engaged now and then for marriage generally, thinking, no, this is here to last, and we disagree because one or both of us has done something wrong and it's caused a clash, but the aim is not to try and score points or to get in the more powerful position or prove yourself right, but it's not me against you, but it should be trying to come back together. And so once you have the assumption that this argument, however fierce it could get, is going to end the exact same way, that we're eventually just going to reconcile and move on or find some way forward, that changes the way you think about the arguing, I think. Is that fair? Yeah, and we read a book that was given to us, or part of a book, that was all about forgiveness and dealing with conflict, and it basically said forgiveness is like the key ingredient to a successful marriage.
And I liked how that book talked about getting the vertical relationship right, so the relationship between ourselves and God, and then we can, once we know that we're forgiven by God, we should be thinking we need to forgive others, because otherwise that's also hypocritical, knowing we've received such forgiveness and then not extending it to other people. Because I'll inevitably discover new things about you that I don't know in the coming future, hopefully. And that shouldn't be a surprise, knowing that it required Jesus to die on the cross to be able to forgive Daniel's sins, for God to be able to forgive Daniel's sins. And the same thing for me as well. And so none of it should come as a surprise, because we know that we're both sinners.
Exactly.
Which is why marriage is expected to be difficult in some ways.
Yeah. What are we going to do about it?
I don't know. Not interrupt each other when we're talking. Our wedding's going to be fairly simple, but I think that's what's reflective of us as people. Like, we're just very simple people. We're just students.
That is so true, though. Like a really flamboyant wedding just wouldn't be us.
Yeah, I think we'd find it more stressful.
It'd be so awkward.
Yeah. Okay. How long have we been filming for? 22
minutes.
Oh, that sounds like the perfect time to wrap this up. We kind of want to make this a sort of regular series thing.
Okay.
So you can expect to hear more from me and Daniel at some point.